He's a Hall of Famer.
Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn, Hall of Fame, CBS affiliate, KVIX TV in San Francisco, and Russell Jackman. And we'll get into that Hall of Fame in just a minute here.
Not in any hall other than my own hallway at home.
Yeah. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And today, we're going to talk about, since the World Series, by the time this show airs, the World Series.
Yeah, we're going to have a champion.
Yep. We will have a champion. So we decided to do the trivia theme, because this will be the last World Series one. World Series in the 2010 to 2019 era.
Oh, I might be able to get some.
You might be able to get some of these.
All right.
And when we go into the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about different Hall of Fames. Russell wants to mention something about the WWE, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll also mention, of course, Vern's induction in the Hall of Fame. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments still currently yielding about 7.5%.
7.5%?
How do they do that?
That should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you know what? It's true, because a lot of companies have lowered their yields quite a bit, but they've been able to just kind of keep it steady. You know why? Because they say no 9 out of 10 times. And they're very choosy as to the loans that they will make. So that's why out of...
Unlike you and your co-hosts. You just picked any two guys to be your co-host, but 90% selection on those loans. That's a bigger deal.
That's big, yeah. So they've done about 1,700 loans, $750 million, 0 losses. Well, when you can get choosy, that happens. So check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. When we come back, we're going to talk a little Hall of Fame stuff, talk a little Antonio Brown, a little Clayton Kershaw, because I think that finally the Dodgers will have won the World Series by the time. Yes, I know you're choking there, Mr. Jackman, but all right, stay with us.
God, he's calling it. Okay.
Yeah, I am calling it. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. All right, so Russell, just before we went on the air, we were talking a little WWE wrestling, which is wrestling, Hall of Fame, and you mentioned that Drew Carey,
and Kid Rock
are in
the Hall of Fame, whereas there's some guys like a guy by the name of Ivan Koloff, who was one of the early WWE champions, and a man that actually the first guy to beat Bruno Sammartino for a title, is not in the WWE Hall of Fame. And it simply has to do with the fact that Vince likes these individuals, and they had minor roles in WrestleManias versus guys that gave their blood, sweat, and tears.
Wait, is it a committee of one?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes, it is.
So, interesting. So Vince just gets to decide who gets to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's it. And it really is sort of a list of Vince's friends more than it is anything to do with how great a wrestler or who you are.
I mean, I don't dislike Drew Carey. I mean, he's great, but
when you think wrestling, you don't think Drew Carey.
No, if I'm him, I think I'd be a little embarrassed to be.
Vince threw a ton of money at him.
Yeah, but I mean,
to be in the Hall of Fame, it's another thing. Is that there's money involved. It's all politics. It's all how much you kissed Vince's butt while you were in the WWE and how much he liked you.
But he wasn't even in it. I mean, he's just a celebrity.
And that's the whole thing. Look, in any Hall of Fame that exists, has there ever been a for sure set measurement of what gets someone into a Hall of Fame anywhere?
No, in fact,
because in most of them you got to be voted in.
Yeah, and guys like Ted Williams there were a lot of baseball writers who did not like him, and so he was not a first ballot. On their ticket, he was not unanimous.
If people were voting again, Ty Cobb probably wouldn't get in the Hall of Fame.
Well, only because of his off the field. He was
so unpopular.
Yeah, but also,
but having said that, Ty Cobb is in the original Hall of Fame class.
Mm-hmm.
1935.
Yes, yeah, but but someone has to vote for you, which means they
True.
either like you or they don't like you. There's never been a number that's actually set in stone that if you get this many home runs, if you get this many RBIs, if you get this many touchdowns, if you get this many receptions, that you'll actually be in a Hall of Fame.
And then there's also the idea of, if someone gets into the Hall of Fame, should someone get pushed out? Like, this guy was a much better shortstop than that guy. He shouldn't. I'm talking about like later on, right? Where you say, some of these guys who were, from the 1930s, who were, good players in the 30s, but they don't
like Steve Largent. There's a really perfect
Steve Largent.
Steve Largent.
He was a very good wide receiver.
He had the most receptions ever as a receiver, but he's been eclipsed, since then a number of times. When I visited the Hall of Fame in 1991, they had this gigantic statue to Steve Largent because he had just gotten all the receptions. But I'm sure that statue now is in some dusty corner somewhere in a warehouse. Because they now they who wants to celebrate the greatness of Steve Largent at this point in time.
Well, like the saying goes, records are meant to be broken, and so his has been obviously broken. And hey, once you get into those things, they can't take it away from you.
Yeah,
well, but they can put you in a closet or in the back, in the back room.
Put you over in the corner. Yeah,
dusty, unlit, corner where, so the guy that beat your record, it gets the giant statue or whatever. Or they take your name and they scratch it off the bottom and they write in Sharpie.
Well, I guess they could have an all-century team, right? They do have those. So they
have those.
They're the best of each one. And also, we are blessed to have as our co-host Vern Glenn, who's also in the Hall of Fame. But which Hall of Fame are you in, Mr. Glenn?
Newly inducted. Yeah, this is the television NATAS for short. It's a national television Hall of Fame. There are regional chapters all across the country, and in this particular chapter, which is called the Silver Circle, I was voted in and I was inducted on this past Saturday night. I went in with 6 other worthy candidates, and it was quite some night. It was an interesting night because it was the first time that we had to do it via a Zoom format, and there were all kinds of technical difficulties surrounding that. But once they got going, full steam ahead.
That is great.
And I got a cigar for the occasion. And I made all this food, and it was eat, drink, be merry, and as we celebrated my Silver Circle status. And that's for those that don't know. It's if you've been in the business for more than 25 years, you then would qualify. Then you get nominated. And then you're voted, and you get enough votes, then you're in. There are 2 people that got in for 50 years, and that is the Gold Circle.
That's amazing. I mean, 25 years is a long. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I gotta go another 15 years to hit 50.
Wait, you've been in for 35 years?
Considering I'm 53, I would have I got my entire life.
I got 35 years in the business. 1985 was my first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. But I mean, to think about how many people, quit the business or get fired or one thing or another. I mean, that's it's like being on a football team and you have to keep proving yourself every year to keep coming back.
Yeah.
Very, very, very impressive, my friend. Very impressive.
Honored to be in your presence.
Well, thank you very much. But just to let you know, hey, you can enjoy it that one night, because the next day I was in Vacaville doing a baseball story on a guy from that town that pitches for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Tony Gonsolin.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. In fact, speaking of the Dodgers, you think Clayton Kershaw is finally out of his World Series slump? I mean, he's good games.
Well, hey, he had a good last outing, and they were able to win the game, and you can't take that away from him.
It's not over. Tonight is the night. Tonight is where Tampa Bay makes its stand.
Well, I'd like to see
this. Yeah, Tampa has to respond or it's over.
Yeah.
Yep.
How'd you like that game 4?
Wow,
Amazing. I've never seen an ending like that. I've never
was
seen
cool.
an ending like
That was
that.
great.
The closest crazy ending like that I can think of is Game 6,
Yeah.
Mets,
Mets.
Red Sox, and Bill Buckner. The oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
And last game, had a crazy ending too. I mean, the trying to
Steal home.
steal home, getting caught on stealing home. When was the last time that happened in a World Series?
Yeah.
They said 1991 with John Smoltz.
Wow.
Oh, it didn't end the game. It didn't end the
Yeah. Yeah, no, such a he should have stayed on. That was a backbreaker for Tampa Bay to have first and third, nobody out, and to not score. That may be where the Dodgers turn the corner. But I'm counting on the curse of the corked bat. It's still got to come and make it. Hey, you got to say that play where the Dodgers blew that for sure ending. That had the curse of the corked bat all over it.
Are you talking about Kirk Gibson's?
Yes. I will.
Wait, but has that been proven yet, or is that still?
No, it's my personal conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That I believe.
Okay, guys, ready for our first commercial break here? We're talking the World Series 2010 to 2019 era. The Texas Rangers were back in the World Series in 2011, right, because they lost to the Giants in 2010, but came up short, losing to the St. Louis Cardinals. One strike away from losing the series in Game 6, which Cardinal hit a triple to save the day and break the Rangers' heart? Who was that player? Remember, they were one strike away, and it's funny because I had recorded the game, and then I didn't add like an hour extra to it.
Oh, it ran out. Oh.
It's like, so now on, I try to record like 12 hours extra just in case.
Just in case.
Especially for these recent World Series games, they've gone over the typical 3 hours.
That happened to me. That happened to me with the Sacramento Kings Lakers game. Because remember that game went into overtime, Game 7.
You know what? I missed the Cubs winning the World Series for the same reason. It was, but long story. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Vern Glenn, and Russell Jackman. We're all here together separately in Zoom. First trivia question. We're talking World Series for the decade 2010 to 2019. The Texas Rangers were back in the World Series in 2011, but came up short again, losing to the St. Louis Cardinals. One strike away from losing the series in Game 6, which Cardinal hit a triple to save the day and break the Rangers' heart?
Mr. Jackman?
Was that Pujols?
No.
No. David Freese.
David Freese. Very good.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, you can't get too much closer than one strike away. All right, like you were mentioning, you had the
whatever happened to him? He just kind of he just sort of disappeared after.
Bounced around. I think he ended up with the Dodgers.
Huh? Because I don't remember him after that. That was like the David Tyree moment.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everyone keeps thinking
you do that, and then the rest of your career, nothing.
Right.
You hit your high point, and then that's all you got.
Well, I can say this for David Freese. Whenever he goes to St. Louis, he'll never pay for it.
Yeah, he's got beers waiting for him. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So
not in Texas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, going back to the World Series situation. So, when the Lakers won the championship,
and you called it, Vern, and you said the next time we talk, the Lakers will have their rings.
I did say that. Yep.
And apparently, coronavirus spiked quite a bit because of gatherings and celebrations.
Yeah, parties.
So now the question is, if the Dodgers win, we're going to have another big, coronavirus.
Just when you couldn't think it could spike even higher, it might in the greater Los Angeles area. I mean, it is at just more than dangerous levels now.
And I guess what I'm hearing too is that it's not so much that, from a percentage wise, the people who get the virus, even people who are older, except for if they have really bad immune systems, most people are 99% of people are surviving it. But what seems to be the bigger issue is the different strains that happen, and then what else is going to happen even after you have it with some, you might survive it, but there might be some other
Sure,
immune
because
system.
it worked like the way shingles hits you with chicken pox, that you have it hanging in your system your whole life,
I
and then
had
it
shingles.
waits for you to have another problem, and then it resurfaces. It could totally work that
Didn't
way.
the experts say that well, once you contract it and beat it, you can't get it again? But that's not true. There's
Well,
other
Yeah,
you
there
may
are
not,
no
you may not get
experts
that one,
when it
but you may
comes to
get some
COVID.
other strain of it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
The
'cause
truth
like
is, there
chickenpox.
are no experts when it comes to COVID.
Good point.
We're pretty much all at a situation where we don't know what it's going to do long term, what it's going to do, what
Yeah.
it does to everybody. Not enough people have experienced it yet, sadly.
Yeah.
For us,
Yeah.
it's not like chicken pox, which has been around. We've known about for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
This is something that just hit us, and normally it takes a decade for people to figure out a disease and get it under
Yeah.
some kind of control.
Well,
And
yeah, it's funny with you mentioned about the scientists and like not knowing anything. I don't know if you guys ever remember hearing about the thalidomide disaster.
oh yes, with
So
the
back
birth
in the
defects.
late 50s and early 60s, when women were having morning sickness, doctors figured, hey, we'll give you this thing called thalidomide, and no problem.
It'll take
you
care
don't
of
have.
it. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
really hurt a lot of
But
people.
what ended up happening was there were a lot of babies born with defects.
Yeah.
And they couldn't figure it out. And then they finally put 2 and 2 together, and then they outlawed.
We're going to lose our sports audience.
Yeah,
We're going to
that's
lose our
okay.
sports audience with all this
That's
wonderful.
It's okay. Hey, listen, people. It's a bunch of guys sitting around talking
Right.
sports and digressing a
And
bit.
thalidomide, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Sports and thalidomide. That's what we should call.
Okay, one more baseball thing. So Major League Baseball debt apparently is now totaled $8.3 billion. So what happens next season when a lot of fans still won't be in attendance? I mean, I don't know how much revenue gets generated. I mean, what's the average? 40,000 fans, right?
Yeah.
Right, 40,000. And forget the season tickets, but just in general, what's the average? $25 a pop.
No,
Plus-
not these days. Probably more like about 50. I'd go with 50.
I mean, even with like St. Louis or some of the lower end costs.
Yeah, I'd still say 50 because you have those luxury boxes that kick the per
Gotcha.
average up quite a bit right there.
Okay, so you're talking that's $2 million per game.
That's good math.
Yeah. And then at times how many games, right?
81.
81, right? And then
160. So it's
no,
like
but I mean, no, but it's
let's just round it off and just say 200 million that they're making about 200 million off of ticket sales.
and that's per team.
Well,
Yeah.
then there's the
Or
baseball,
half the team.
then there's the
Then there's TV.
then there's the TV contracts.
Yeah.
That's
That they still
that's
I mean,
more
they're
revenue.
still playing. They're just not playing in front of audiences.
Right.
But TV revenue is down, obviously, because
yeah.
people aren't, paying for advertising as much because a number of the places that were paying for advertising are out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how. I mean, it's not like paying for the Super Bowl, but it is pretty expensive still. I got to think for baseball games.
Well, that's where the $1 billion. That's where the
But I mean, you're still going to get like Papa John's pizza or Domino's or Pizza Hut or something because people are still,
eating.
still eating. Yeah, those companies haven't gone out of business, right? We're not talking about.
No, but you can't say, do everything just purely off of that. I mean, and even those companies want to spend less on advertising now than they did.
That I think is not the right answer, but I think that you're closer on that because, yeah, go ahead.
Check this out. The New York Yankees estimated $437 million in game day revenue lost.
I believe
compared to
it.
what the Yankees might have drawn with fans attending a traditional 81 game home season.
Because it isn't just the tickets. I mean, they're buying food, they're buying souvenirs, their parking is another, big source of revenue, for these places, and
here in the Bay Area, the Giants announced, they announced layoffs as a result of losing so many millions of dollars. I don't have the figure in front of me, but
I mean, do you think it's possible that they might take the games and make them like pay-per-view cable type of situation?
I don't know.
They can't because of their existing contracts with the networks. You know, they can't just do that. I mean, the games are already paid for, you know, and you can't, you know, say, well, we're going to charge a second time for something like that because these networks have already shelled out the money for it.
I think in the big picture, it's not so much 2020 that we're kind of like braced for impact. I'm afraid for, you know, like what the job front's going to look like in 2021.
Yeah.
Because so much money's been lost, and these businesses got to look how are we going to recover, you know, for the next year? Because I mean, you might know this, but you obviously know this better than I do. But don't companies kind of get their budgets together at different times of the year for the next year?
And then they revisit it too.
Yeah.
Right, because they have to go with the times and, you know, up to date because things change.
Right.
I mean, like when they set this out in 2019 for 2020, and nobody knew this was coming on. I'm sure they had to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, we're pulling."
Right, but sports for a lot of people is, you know, ultimately a luxury, and if you have to choose between feeding your family and $20,000 season tickets to some place, you know,
right.
What are you going to do if you lost your job and, you know, the 49ers want you? I had friends of mine that were they live up the road. They were 49er fans from the beginning at Kezar Stadium.
Wow.
And they moved their seats over from Kezar to Candlestick, and they turned down Levi Stadium because Levi Stadium wanted a total of $80,000.
Yeah.
Keep their seats,
and that's
to buy
for the right to keep their seats, $80,000.
And the thing is, depending upon where they live too. I mean, that you're not. It's one thing to go.
Right, they live here in Nevada,
it's another thing to go all Nevada.
Right, yeah, they have to go down to Santa Clara for every game.
Yeah,
so that was a big deal. That was a real big deal for them, and they sacrificed their tickets because they don't have $80,000 lying around. And so a lot of people, I think, are going to have to consider, you know, whether they make the choice of enjoying sports or, you know, feeding and taking care of their families.
You know, this whole virus thing is really, I think, humbled a lot of people and a lot of companies. So in a good way, you know, people had to kind of like hunker down and figure out, like, in life what's important, you know, that kind of thing.
Or they made the wrong choices.
You ready for our second trivia question on the World Series?
I don't know if I'm ready, but, you know, bring it on.
2013 World Series saw the Boston Red Sox defeat the St. Louis Cardinals 4-2. Which Boston player won his third series title with the team and was also named series MVP?
Wait, ask that again?
Okay. 2013 World Series, Boston Red Sox defeat the St. Louis Cardinals 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Which Boston player won his third series title with the team and was also named series MVP? And here's a hint. He was not on the 1918 World Series.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just in case you were wondering. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. And welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Vern Glenn, and Russell Jackman here. All right, second trivia question. 2013 World Series, Boston Red Sox defeat St. Louis Cardinals. Which Boston player won his third series title with the team and was also named MVP?
David Ortiz.
Yes, that is correct. See,
David Ortiz. Yep, Big Pappy.
You know, they're not exactly softball questions, but we didn't want to embarrass you guys by doing too hard a question. You know,
he's got. You know, he's not. You know, he's been kind of entertaining to me on the pregame and postgame shows.
Yeah, Big Pappy, Big Pappy. All right. One other thing I've got here, going to football. Antonio Brown goes to the Bucs.
Right.
And now there's this big, you know, controversy because Coach Arians was a champion of women. And
he said that Antonio Brown was never going to come on the team.
And he said he was never going to come on the team. So I'm wondering if this signing is going to undo a lot of his goodwill. But then there's the, you know, gee, do you allow Antonio Brown to have a, quote, second chance or third chance or
Uh,
fourth chance.
Exactly. It's ridiculous.
Jay, it just goes to show you, you got a player like that at an elite level that has.
Well, here's the question. How elite is he going to be? I mean, he has not played a game in almost 2 years now.
Yeah, but these teams that are kicking the tires and looking at him, and if they if they didn't put value in it, then they wouldn't pay attention to it. I mean, this guy. I mean, trust me, that first 9 route, that first 7 go route, when he catches a pass from Tom Brady, lights it up and scores like an 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, the league will go crazy over it.
Yeah, it's not like having somebody there for just like for show. I mean, he's going to have to produce, and they know he can produce on the field.
Great players buy themselves more chances. I mean, it's just fact.
And it's a sad message. It's a sad message. I mean, to not even make him serve his suspension is what blows me away. Shows what a weak commissioner Goodell is. Who is he served his time.
Yeah.
I thought he had another suspension. I thought he had like another he was supposed to have another like.
No, he's done. He's done.
He's done.
He served his time.
All right.
Yeah, he can't start till
he can play as early as next weekend.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and apparently Tom Brady likes having him on the team. I guess after that the one play that they were together in New England together.
Well, if it's going to get him touchdowns.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I mean, again, it's I know character means a lot, but when you're in the business of winning football games, if Frankenstein can get you a pancake block to open a hole, then Frankenstein's going to be on that team.
Yeah, I mean, there are situations, though, where you depend on somebody, like, the way the 49ers were depending on Reuben Foster, and he, really let the team down by getting into the kind of trouble that he got into. And
we also don't know what goes on in the locker room, right? And if Antonio Brown, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's a team player, based on what he did in Pittsburgh, but that's a whole different situation compared to someone
who just has locker room cancers. I mean,
look at Ray Rice, right? He had serious issues, and then
you could tear a team apart. Now, does Brady have the gravitas to be able to hold these guys together, including Rob Gronkowski, who was also not the world's easiest person to deal with, but with Brady's magical. Certainly Brady is looking better than Belichick is looking right now.
Oh God, that was a disaster.
I mean,
but wait, go back to Gronk for a minute. Where is Gronk not an easy person to get? I mean, he hasn't had off the field antics.
Yeah, I haven't read anywhere where Gronk was a teammate problem. Where'd you read that, Mr. Jackman?
Well, I had heard some things on some of the websites that when he was looking around for after retirement. After he was retired, before he knew that Brady was going to be over in Tampa Bay, he had looked at a number of teams, and a lot of teams were not interested in him.
Well, yeah,
so it was more that
is it because they're thinking, he's not.
Was it a character thing, or did they already have tight ends? Did they not want to spend what his asking price would have been?
Yeah.
I mean, what were the factors? I haven't heard anything about his character as a player and a teammate. That's the first for me.
All right. Well, I'll have to generate find the rumor stuff that I read about. It was something on one of the football analytical websites that I check out for the fantasy teams I work with. So
when you find it, let me know the date that was published too.
Good.
I'd be curious about that.
And then also, rumors. I mean, how much stock can you put in those rumors?
And that's the problem with Twitter. That's the problem with social media.
Yeah.
Used to be, hey, if you're running with a story like that let's just say Gronk is a problem issue, you need to have 2 credible sources. I mean, credible sources before you went and aired a story like that. But no. Twitter,
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just
there's a
Just
lot
take
of
it away,
exactly.
hit send, and it's posted, and then people look at that and go, "Wow, look at that!
Yeah. Well,
Wow,
you know,
it's
it's funny.
got to
Even
be true." Hey, look, hey guys, hey, look, it's on Twitter. It's got to be true.
exactly. Well, you know, it's funny. Even when you mention about you have to have like 2 or 3 backups, that's even biblical. I mean, even the Bible talks about how you have to. You can't just accuse someone. You've got to actually have 2 or 3 witnesses in order
Absolutely.
to
That's
come through.
it's just a huge issue. Yeah.
Especially when you can hide behind your computer and
Yeah.
nobody knows who you are and all
Hey,
that.
Joe Schmo with Pro Football Weekly. Hey, he just wrote this. Hey, it's got to be true. Hey, look at that. It's in print.
I love the way you just gotta throw your hands up, the eyes roll back. It's gotta be true. I saw it on the internet, right? All right. Yeah. So, Belichick. What did they? What did they score? 3 points?
6. But
6?
what has been it's been interesting to see that the victory by the 49ers has not been seen so much as an accomplishment for the 49ers, which I find amazing, but it's been couched as a failure of Belichick. And so
Do you think
do
you think that's because it's Bill Belichick?
Well, they also scored only 6 points. I think that's where it comes from, rather than, if they lost
the fact that the Niners used a 4th backup running back and got 112 yards with it.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's the other thing, Edward.
Yeah.
The Patriots couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
Forget the scoring; they couldn't stop them.
Exactly. But I mean, that's why I think it's more of their failure rather than the 49ers looking so good.
But the 49ers dismantled the Rams, who just had a big win against Chicago, too. I feel that you look at Shanahan, and I'm pretty amazed to watch him transform this team, and Lynch, from a defensive-oriented team with, Bosa on there and Ford and Solomon Thomas and Richard Sherman all gone, and Trubisky, Tart, and just about everybody else. I can keep naming. We don't have enough time on the program for me to name all the Niner defensive injuries that they've had. But now they're a run-first, offensive-based team, and they've made that transition in just 3 games.
But how much of that has to do with Garoppolo not really being a throwing quarterback, a scrambling quarterback?
It has to do with their offensive line being a tremendous run-blocking line. Look at what a failure Matt Breida is in Miami versus what a good running back he was for the 49ers. You're watching guys like Wilson Jr. and Hasty. Who knew about Hasty before he started running for the 49ers? It's that line and Juszczyk that are able to get holes, and Kittle, who's a tremendous blocking tight end that people don't really recognize. They make holes that just about anyone can run through, and that's what's made a huge difference for their team this year. They don't have to go to Garoppolo, or they can use the pass as the run, which has been working. Why mess with that?
Yeah.
What's the longest pass Garoppolo's had?
Well, he's had a few. Remember, he got 180 yards to Kittle just a couple games ago. So, but again, let's all run after catch. That's the rack or the yak, whatever you want to call. The Niners, look at Deebo Samuels. He's basically a running back as a wide receiver right now. I mean, he's being used as almost a running back. They're throwing it to him in the backfield, and then he's running and getting 20, 30 yards after.
It's almost like Goff is like that too, right? I mean, you look at the game last,
and now he's out.
Goff, he doesn't seem to be able to really hit 50-yard passes.
But do you need to?
No, that's exactly. It's just been this really short term. I mean,
I'll go for the shorter ones and have the higher percentage and let the guys that catch it do the line do the work to make the yards happen. It's controlled the game. It's eaten up the clock, and it's been very high percentage football, which fine, I'll take it. Shanahan and Lynch are working with what they have now because of all the injuries, and it's been really, to me, spectacular.
How do you like the way the Falcons lost again?
Oh,
it's funny because he had the presence of mind. He had the presence of mind to think, oh, I don't want to score a touchdown now because and somehow it just falls just barely in. But then they can't stop the Lions from marching down the field.
Or anyone at this stage.
Yeah.
They could have had, and then they have to look back on that loss to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
As still stinging on them. And I also wanted to bring up Odell Beckham while we're in just random talk mode here. And that is, did you hear about what he did with LSU? If you want to talk about sports econ 101.
No, go ahead.
He got on the field after the game, after LSU won, and he handed out like $100 bills to all the players.
Oh, is that right?
And it was on TV.
And they got in trouble for that. I mean, they lost some. I think they lost some scholarships to that.
They did. They lost recruits thanks to Odell Beckham's. I don't even know what you'd call that. It was one of the dumber moves in modern college football history.
I'm sure he was not thinking ahead about the consequences, right? I mean, come on.
Obviously not, but
No.
it's going to be devastating to the LSU football program. And so stupid to think that you can just have a guy hand you money for winning on TV, after you win a game.
Well, if Odell bet on the game and he won a lot, he's just sharing the wealth.
Now he has lots of time to bet on games.
Oh yeah, really. Okay, guys,
he's not going to be doing much.
Here's our third trivia question, and this one's a little interesting here. The 2019 World Series saw the Washington Nationals defeat the Houston Astros 4-3 to clinch their first crown. Which, quote, first occurred in this series? This is it's kind of hard, a little subjective.
Esoteric, yes.
Right? I mean, this was the first time.
Oh, I think I know. I think this is the one I do know.
Series, that had never happened before.
Yeah, I think I know this one.
You think you know this one? Okay.
Finally.
All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
A non-Giants trivia question that I actually know the answer to.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We'll be back for some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, Edward Brown here along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Our third trivia question is a little interesting. 2019 World Series. Washington Nationals defeat the Houston Astros 4-3 to clinch their first crown. Which, quote, first occurred in this series that had never occurred in any other World Series?
No home team won a game.
Bingo.
There you go. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Did you know that one, Vern?
I had forgotten, but as soon as it came out of your mouth, I was like, "Yep, that's right." Yeah.
Yeah. And
that was weird. And now who knows what home field advantage is with COVID.
because now you're playing in this COVID thing. Yeah, I remember. I think it was 1987, Minnesota beating Atlanta, and it was the home team won every game. I read it. No, St. Louis. They beat St. Louis.
That isn't so shocking. But to have a no home field advantage basically in a 7-game series is pretty amazing.
Washington and Houston, it's not like it's not like the '85 World Series with Kansas City and St. Louis where they're both in the same state.
Yeah, it could be the same thing.
Okay, you guys ready for our thoughts for the day?
Let's go.
Sure.
George Washington is the only president who didn't blame the previous administration for his troubles.
Well, he did. He blamed the king for that one.
Well, that's true, but
there's your previous admin.
And apparently, I snore so loudly that it scares everyone in the car I'm driving.
What was that? What was the last part?
And apparently,
everyone in the car.
I snore so loudly that it scares everyone in the car I'm driving.
Okay.
I thought you'd like that. We always try to come up with these.
No more road trips for you.
No road trips. All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Adios.
So long.